Hello, everybody. The Write or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to David Bishop. So glad that you are on the show, David.
It's great to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, I'm looking forward to talking to you. All right. First things first, though, tell us a little bit about who the heck you are.
Sure, absolutely. So I am the CEO of Cedo Productions, and basically our focus is really helping people live their best lives. We focus on positive outlooks, habits, relationships, those types of things. I personally have created several books that have focused on helping people communicate better, have better relationships, and also help people that are dealing with depression. So if you have somebody you know that is struggling with depression, one of my books is really focused on helping you in that arena. So
and what one's that called? Because that kind of goes with our show here.
The Man in the Pit.
Okay.
The Man in the Pit. Yep. There's several other things that I do, but I think that's probably the big ones I think that we'll probably hit on today.
Probably.
Go ahead.
That's what you do, but who are you?
Who am I? That's a great question. Well, I'm somebody who basically is always trying to figure out how to make life a little more fun, a little more enjoyable, and a little better for everybody involved. I'm the type of person that wants to figure out how to include everybody, but not just that, how to help people find ways to make life interesting and exciting, because I think that we're at our best when we're not just productive and focused on productivity, but when we're enjoying what we do, and that makes us productive. And I think that's kind of one of the crucial things we really focus on in my company is how to make people excited and energized about what they do, about the relationships they have, about their outlook on life.
That's awesome. If I keep looking up, it's because my cat is playing with a toy right above me. I'm in the basement and the cat is playing with a toy, and I just hear this little ball go. So that's why I keep looking up. I'm not rolling my eyes at you. I'm distracted by the cat.
I get it. I've got 3 cats of my own, so I totally get it.
Oh, see, now that's who you are. So
that's who I am. That's who I am.
What are your 3 cats' names?
Well, my oldest cat is Sam. She's actually been around for quite some time, and the 2 young ones, they're not even a year old. They're Loopy and Nolo. One has a loop on his tail, which is why he's Loopy, and one has no loop, so she's Nolo.
Love it. Oh, that's so cute. I love cats. And before we can move on, I gotta ask the question, and you kind of told me a little bit, but I want everybody else to know, because they might also be very distracted if we don't get this out of the way.
Absolutely.
Behind you.
What? There's something. Oh wow! I didn't know that was there. Yeah. This is my new project. It's actually something. It's called Zombie Goals, and what it's focused on is one of the things. I know we're going to get into talking about mental health issues, depression, all that kind of stuff. One of the things that really was a challenge was, how do I still be productive? I deal with depression. Sometimes it hits really hard. How can I move forward? How can I make progress? And I found, just having to deal with it, not only that, but having to sometimes teach other people how to deal with those types of things, read a lot of books, do a lot of research. I came across a lot of techniques and a lot of kind of tricks, brain hacks, if you will, on how to, even when you feel like a zombie, how you make forward progress and actually stay productive. So that's the big one I'm working on now. That's my upcoming project, Zombie Goals. Very excited about it. It's basically an app that plays like a game to help you.
Oh, so it's not a book, it's an app.
It's an app. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Keep going.
Well, I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to take too much time away from the book.
That's okay.
But I will.
It's an app for helping people with their mental health.
Well, actually, it's an app for how to be productive and move forward, even when you're not the type of person that does well with that. Somebody that struggles with that. It's mental hacks, brain tricks, that type of thing to keep you moving forward. when you find those types of struggles. So even
Very
if you're someone
cool.
that deals with those types of things, this is the app for you.
Very
But
cool.
it's we're still working on it, but we're
It's
slating
coming.
that for later this year. Very excited about
Oh,
it.
so that's pretty soon, really, being within the
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Cool. All right, and you've done the perfect segue into mental health. So you talked about when you have sometimes really, really bad lows. What do those feel like?
Yeah, that is so hard, I've found, to really communicate to somebody that doesn't understand it. I mean, I've done it before, but it's always kind of like in my terms, and I've recognized that when I talk about it, other people don't understand it. It's not the same thing to them. A lot of people think
Your
like,
terms. We want to hear your terms.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people think it's sadness. Depression is sadness. A lot of people, and I know they're trying to be very, very helpful and very encouraging, and they think, I've heard the term, it's a mindset. You just got to think positively and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely am all for being positively focused and things like that. But at the same time, you can tell somebody who's trapped under a giant boulder to be positive, and I guarantee you they're not going to be positive.
Boulder is not moving.
Yes, yes. I still have a giant boulder on my body. So until that changes, positivity is not the missing factor. Getting the boulder off is the missing factor. So, but it's kind of like that. It's kind of like, well, to be honest, it's not so much a sadness as it is kind of an emptiness, like you can't feel things. Yeah. Like normal emotions and things aren't clicking. You're kind of moving through life without it's all like mechanical, I guess would be the best way to say it, because you really aren't so much motivated to do some things as you just have to do things. In fact, that's one of the struggles I've always had is you normally get motivated. You're motivated to do certain actions. And what do you do when the neurochemical impulses in your brain don't provide that? I mean, we don't do anything without motivation. Mm-hmm. So what happens when you simply, that trigger doesn't exist? It's like taking out the ignition switch in a car. You could turn that key all you want, but the car's not going anywhere. So how do you deal with that? That's always been one of the biggest challenges is moving past that.
I love the analogy of the boulder on there, because I struggle with depression myself, and explaining it to my therapist, I was like, it's really hard. Now, of course, she was trained to sort of have that understanding, but still, it's hard to get those words out. And I also like your word mechanical. So I'm going to steal that. I'm probably going to use that.
Go for it.
I always use the word flatness.
Yes.
Because it's a lack of emotions. So it's just like flatness. So that's, you can steal that word from me if you want. Well,
there you go. I like it.
So how do you then get that motivation, or basically just force yourself into doing these things?
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're kind of getting into some of the stuff we talk about here. It's really a compilation of things, but the big thing, our big kind of key principle is what I call easy streak and fun. It's a cobbled together thing of three pieces that are crucial to making this happen. And they're, I found out about one thing and I started using it, found out about another thing, started using it. The thing is, you've got to make tasks easy. I mean, so easy that you can do them. For instance, if you want to write every day, and this was a trick that I used early on, you don't say, I'm going to write a chapter a week, or you don't say, I'm going to write, however much, 30 minutes a day. What you do is you say, I'm going to go to my computer and open up a Word document. And that may be it. I mean, maybe you say a sentence a day, maybe you say a paragraph a day, or maybe it's just opening up the document. What you're doing is you're making it so easy that you can't not do it. You just might as well. I mean, you're not going to, do anything else. You might as well.
Yeah.
And so you don't have anything that's going to stop you. And then the second part of that is the streaks. You've got to create these streaks of activity by doing them every day.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I have done certain streaks so long that if I don't do them, I know that I'm going to have to start over. I mean, some of them are thousands of days long.
Wow.
So yeah, so I know that if I don't do them, I mean, I'm starting from scratch, and that right there is about, I mean, if you're talking about mechanical motivation, that's about it. So
Yeah.
between making it easy and then making, doing these things daily, if I just write a sentence a day, that may not seem like much, but if you don't get motivated to do it at all and you want to write a chapter and you don't do anything, you're not anywhere. But after writing a sentence a day for 30 days, you've actually got a pretty good start to a chapter, and that's just at the very basics. And there's something about that adds itself motivation. And then in your good days, of course, you can do more and things like that. And then injecting fun into it. That would be the last thing.
Yes.
So
when did you notice that you were suffering with depression?
Yeah, and it's just been something that I've had.
It's for as long as you can remember, as a
pretty
teen,
much
child. Okay.
Pretty much. Yes.
And when did you start telling other people about it?
I think that's a good question. I don't know that I ever had the words when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that people ever understood when I was younger. And it wasn't until I was older that, first of all, it made sense to me. And secondly, it made sense to other people. I just kind of felt like, first of all, that I was sad a lot. And secondly, this was what sadness was.
Mm-hmm.
I was basing it on what other people said, but it wasn't until later that, I learned that it was something much bigger. I think it's always kind of been a challenge, because I think the difficulty is that a lot of people kind of, not everybody, but a lot of people experience depression. They don't know it.
Yeah.
And kind of that same way you talk about that flatness, right? I think what happens is people have that flatness, and just to feel emotion, they do things that are destructive.
Yes.
And so a lot of things you see where people have destructive habits, sometimes that's based in depression, mm-hmm. and they're just trying to feel something. Yeah. And they just don't know what's going on.
Yeah. That's where a lot of cutters come from, right?
Yeah.
Is they want that
mm-hmm.
feeling. So they inflict that physical pain on themselves, and then they have a feeling.
Yeah.
And another good point that you mentioned, right, was you didn't necessarily know it as a kid. It was always something, a part of your life, but you didn't recognize it. And I think that comes a lot from, if you haven't experienced something else, that is your mm-hmm. normal.
Exactly.
My normal. This flatness was my normal. And I just thought everybody was
exactly
the same in a way, right? It's not until you start to realize that it's not a normal thing, that other people don't just go through life going through the motions, being mechanical, being flat, right? But as a
right.
kid, or even as a teen, you don't realize that. So
right.
you just think it's normal. Okay, I'm me, right? And it's not to say that you're not you, but you think it's normal, and you think that
everybody deals with this.
Yeah.
Yep. And even if they do deal with it, doesn't mean they deal with it the same way.
No, exactly. Everybody is very, very different with it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you gone to therapy or taking medication?
Yes, I have done both. I waited a really, really long time to do anything with medication or anything like that. And I finally broke down and realized that this was something, because I don't take hardly any medication of any type my entire mm-hmm. life. But I realized that was something I need to do. And it wasn't what I thought. I thought it would be like almost like mind altering or something like that.
Yeah.
And it doesn't even necessarily stop it basically, instead of everything going completely flat, it gives you a little bit more room. So it doesn't mean that all your days are amazingly high. It just means where you normally would crash way down, it kind of buffers that a little bit and makes it a little bit more reasonable. And as far as counseling goes, I've been to counseling for a fair amount of my life, off and on. I've struggled with that to some degree. Sometimes it's you find somebody good, and then next thing you know, you move or something like that, and then you find people that don't quite get it, and so you struggle. But yeah, I've definitely connect with people, some good, some that tried, and some that weren't so good.
And I talk about that in another episode, where if you find one counselor and they're not so good, don't give up. Try somebody else.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, and I love the way that you described medication, because so I take medication. I tried to go off of it, didn't go well, so I'm back on it. And I've never been able to put into words why it works or how it works for me, but the way that you described it, where it gives you that kind of buffer, is perfect. I don't sink really low anymore, but it doesn't mean that I'm up here escalated all the time. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. All right. And what would you say some of the great coping skills that you've learned, say through therapy or anywhere else? What are some of the really good coping skills you've learned?
I think some of the challenges I have with that is so I'm going to dive a little deep on this. How's that?
Do it. That's what we're here for.
All right, let's do it. So I think some of the challenges, right, that lead us to depression, I think sometimes is a lot of depression to me feels like, the world should be this and it's not this, and that leads to a certain level of discouragement, hopelessness, despair, something. And a lot of that comes from being programmed a certain way. You have to be this, you have to be that. And one of the ways I'm programmed is to be productive. So one of my coping mechanisms is really dealing with how to be productive. And I think to some degree that's good. I can be productive. I can help other people be productive, even in the midst of these types of things. But to some degree it's damaging, because it focuses my personhood, my identity on production. If I do produce, I'm a good person. If I don't produce, I'm not a good person. So there's that aspect. As far as dealing with the symptom, right? I've found the mechanisms to deal with the symptom, and that's helpful. But as far as dealing with some of the problems, it's still a struggle for me. It's still a struggle to deal with the underlying identity of who I am and why I'm okay. And it's really kind of a thing where you just have to be persistent. You have to say, something's wrong. I know this is wrong. I know that my methods of dealing with it are wrong. What have I tried? What haven't I tried? What is the underlying cause? And sometimes it's just a painful discovery process where you have to slowly uncover a piece, spend some time with it, change, and then, adapt, and then move on to the next part of yourself that is like that. So I think that's kind of how I would break it down. One, into how I still maintain my productivity. And then secondly, how I deal with my own issues that feed into my depression.
I think that's a really good point, like both sides, but I really want to focus right now on the identity part of dealing with it, because you're right. You have to take one basically box. You take a little box, you unpack it and all the crap that's up in there and work through it, because until you actually work through those things, those underlying problems, all you're dealing with is the symptoms, like you were saying.
Exactly.
So you have to take it, and then once it's emptied out, you might have to put a few things back in. Maybe you're not ready to deal with all of it, or you've dealt with it. You're like, it's okay. It's okay that I'm going to use my own life. It's okay that I had an alcoholic stepfather. I understand now why I don't like yelling. Okay. I'm going to put him back in this box because I'm done with him now. I don't need to deal with that anymore. I'm done with him. He can go in this box. He's not affecting my life anymore. I'm going to put him back on the shelf. Then I can go to the next box. Right. So that's, as you were talking, that's what I was picturing, is I'm literally in my mind taking off a box, opening, dealing with it in there, deciding what can go back in the box because I don't need it anymore, deciding what's going in the trash because not even going to think about it anymore, and deciding what I'm absorbing into myself because you know what, it's okay to be who I am.
Yep, absolutely. And I think one of the tricky parts of that is as we're doing that unboxing, right, and dealing with the problem, we still have to find ways to deal with the symptom. I think that's the trick, right?
It's kind
trying
of
to stay afloat where you're dealing with the problem, while you're dealing with the leak, you know?
Yes, exactly. So for me, I unpacked at my therapist because unpacking all by myself, maybe not. So I unpack at the therapist. We figure out that box. And then when I'm by myself, I can use the strategies that I've learned, just like exercising, meditation, breathing, all those goodies to deal with those symptoms until the next time I can go back and unpack another box.
Yeah. You just as a little aside, you bring up exercise, and I think that's something I haven't really thought about in a while, but I think that is probably crucial, getting good exercise. In fact, it's the streak I've got that's like 2,000 days is making sure I get my calorie burn every day. And I do 30 minutes of cardio a day. And I think the endorphins that gives me, I definitely seen, that is an improvement. So I would say if you can do exercise, that, to anybody out there, that is one thing that if you can find a way to be consistent, and again, use that easy streak and fun methodology, just go for a walk a minute a day and start building a habit, but that exercise will really help. It's your body's medicine in addition to what other medicine you've got.
Exactly. Yeah. It's really a big part of what I need to do for me. And that was actually one of the very first things that my therapist said was, so I used to work out crazy amounts of time because I'm a competitor, kickboxer, personal trainer, all that good stuff. So I had stopped, this is a few years ago, I had stopped working out for myself. If I was teaching a class and I needed to do something, I would do it. I was going through the mechanical motions.
Yeah.
But for myself, no, I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to eat this tub of ice cream. And that's not a good thing, but that's what I was doing. That's where I was in my life. And I would go to the therapist, my psychologist, my therapist. And the first thing she said was, all right, well, you've stopped doing something that you love doing. Plus exercise releases those really good endorphins and happy hormones. So I want you to try and work out 2 times a week. That's it. Just start there for yourself, not part of a class, not for teaching, for you. Okay. That's how I said it too. The big sigh and everything.
Sure.
Because you're making me have to get up off my lazy bum, put my ice cream down, and go do it. But from doing that, it got me back going again and got me having a streak again and just going. So, it's huge. And yeah, that was the very first thing that she told me to do. And the next thing was track my emotions, because that's important to do too. But yeah, that's huge. And I love how you said a minute walk, something short.
Something that the trick is that you're building the habit. That's the thing. The important thing is you do it every day. So if you make it small, you start doing that, you've done it for 3 months straight, you're going to be like, I think I'm going to walk more today. It's going to naturally build, but you've built the habit. So it's part of your life.
Exactly.
That's the trick. Now you talked about kickboxing training and all this. It sounds like you're a little driven. Am I getting that correct?
I try to be. on my good days I am.
I get that. I definitely understand that kind of, there's that. I feel like sometimes there's like, I know people like me that deal with this. There's a driving aspect to them. and also the fight for that driving aspect at the same
Mhm.
time, and it becomes a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, most days I am. All right. So what have you written?
Well, I have written 3 books. When I started, so I actually write a lot. I've got several blogs out there. We've got our Venture, which is our scavenger hunt app. We got a blog there that helps people kind of just do fun activities with family.
Oh, nice.
Um, it's part of what we do. That's our relationship focus is
Mhm.
Venture, and then our outlook focus is Wildful Living. Do a blog there. I do a blog on zombie goals, which is about habits and that type of
Yes,
thing.
I love it.
I have a lot of fun with that one, because that one I get to make up all kinds of stories about zombies, so it's great. But I've been doing those blogs for a while. But I was actually working, doing these workshops. I did these workshops at universities, Fortune 500 campuses in various states. And I was helping people to communicate better, particularly when it comes to presentations. And, because everybody's been in that presentation where they're like, okay, I'm not sure if this is worth, I think I just need to, call somebody, have them text me, make up an emergency, whatever it is, I can get out of this thing.
Yep.
So I was basically training people on how to make a presentation that people just absolutely are enamored with.
Okay.
And such great feedback. I ended up making a book, how to create amazing presentations. So that basically takes the tools and techniques from a lot of masters out there, that have really done a great job of creating presentations. I mean, one of the presentation secrets of Steve Jobs is one of the key kind of thought books out there on that, which is a great book on the subject. Anyway, went from there to create 7 steps for better relationships, which is just stories and some other things about that teach you kind of keys to good relationships, and how to make the most of your relationships. And then kind of got really hit hard by depression. And the book, The Man in the Pit, it's short, it's easy. That's kind of its goal. But it's an allegory, and if you have depression, I think you'll connect with it very strongly.
Yeah,
But if
I'm
you,
feeling like I need that one.
it's a great book. I can definitely get you a copy.
Yeah.
But it's an allegory. It's just 5 chapters long, and it's just a story. But it demonstrates to people that really want to know how to help somebody that they love that has depression. That's who it's written for,
That's a
because people
precious
don't
book.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to get me a copy, and I definitely know a few people who could use a copy.
I definitely do too. And luckily I've had a lot of people that I know have grabbed a copy, and I think I know it's helped several people, and I'm expecting that other people that haven't responded, or said anything back, that it's been helpful to them. It seems like all the responses I get have been very positive and very eye-opening.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And where can people find your books?
Well, you can find them on Amazon. You can go to Bitly, if you're familiar with Bitly, bit.ly/D Bishop Books, and then I'll take you to my list of books.
Wonderful. And those links will be in the description down below. And where can people follow you?
Well, actually, if you just go to davidsbishop.com, S is in Stewart, you can, that's my homepage. You can go there and you can find my links to everything, to Facebook, to Twitter, to LinkedIn, and all that. And of
Beautiful.
course, Venture, Zombie Goals, Wildful Living. There's even ways to connect with us and do some different things there. Again, if you want to build great habits, Zombie Goals has got some great material even before the app comes out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I gotta check me out some zombie goals. I love horror stuff, so zombies and then goals obviously are important in life. So putting the two together,
yeah.
genius.
Thank you.
Well, of course, yes. All of those links again in the description down below. Be sure to give David a follow. Check out all of the things, but especially zombie goals. And if you know anybody who isn't understanding or they're curious to help somebody with depression. It sounds like The Man in the Pit, right? I got that right?
Mm-hmm. You got it right.
The Man in the Pit is the book that you got to get them. And I mean, well, Easter just passed, but there's always birthdays and Christmas. Books make great gifts.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. So, one last question for you. What would you
Mm-hmm.
tell somebody who's listening right now and dealing with their own depression? What would you tell them?
Well, I think the thing is, it's always going to be different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay that you are feeling this. There's nothing wrong with feeling what you're feeling. I think a lot of times people will want you to get over it. They'll want you to put on a happy face. You don't have to. It's okay to feel what you're feeling. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't last. Life has ups and downs and all that kind of thing. Find people that will understand. And for those of you that want to know what you can do for somebody that's dealing with that, the best thing is to be present.
Yes.
Not be intrusive, but to be present. I find the most encouraging thing I can have is somebody who is not talking to me, not interrupting me, not intruding, but just present. I mean, literally another person in the room makes me feel valuable. Mm-hmm. Whereas trying to communicate, trying to talk, having them need something from me really is a challenge because I'm dealing with a mind full of mess. But if they're just present, they just show me that I have value just by their presence. That's a tremendous help. That's honestly the biggest thing you can do, is just show people that you'll be there and you're willing to help and encourage.
Wonderful. So thank you so very much for being on the show.
Thank you so much. This has been fantastic. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on.
Yeah, and I love that you sat in front of that picture because it really.
Well, this is my wall, so that's just what it is. I mean, this is my wall.
I love it. I do. I really love it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too. I hope everybody enjoyed that episode. David was a lot of laughs, and I cannot get enough of that picture behind him with the zombies, and I cannot wait for that app to come out. I am definitely going to be one of the first people to try it out. And of course, remember those links down below in the description. Give them a follow. If you have not already, subscribe to the channel, give us a thumbs up, share this with your friends. And remember that the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly